Hey guys, what's up? And welcome to another video here. This is Toy House, and today I want to talk about the Rogue. And I feel like I've only done a few videos on the Rogue. I haven't really gone really in depth, and that's what this video here is today. So I'm going to talk about the abilities that were added in the Burning Crusade for Rogue first, and then we're going to talk about how Rogues do in PvE, PvP, and then we're going to talk about each of those things in depth, leveling. Basically going to bring in some comments from you guys and your thoughts on Rogue. So you're in for a treat today. So some of the new abilities that happen in the Burning Crusade that you may have forgotten about. One is Shiv, which performs an instant offhand attack that automatically applies the poison from your offhand weapon to the target. Slower weapons are going to require more energy, and it'll reward one combo point. But really what makes this an awesome ability is that it gives rogues the ability to really quickly get an important poison on a target. So maybe you're switching targets and you want to Shiv wound poison on that new target, get that up as soon as possible to get that 50% decrease in healing. It's basically an incredibly strong PvP ability to really get that poison on exactly when you need it, whether that's wound or poison or mind numbing, whatever it is. So Shiv is a new ability, which is really strong. Another really big one is Mutilate. This is at the end of the assassination tree. It reads instantly attacks with both weapons for an additional 44 with each weapon. Damage is increased by 50% against poisoned targets. You got to be behind the target, and it's going to award you 2 combo points. So you can see here why Shiv and Mutilate kind of go hand in hand, because it'll do 50% more damage against poisoned targets. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure you're poisoning your target before you mutilate them. So Shiv and Mutilate, both super strong. Mutilate is extremely strong, by the way. It's a very awesome ability. Surprise attacks. Your finishing moves can no longer be dodged, and the damage dealt by your Sinister Strike, Backstab, Shiv, and Gouge abilities is increased by 10%. Pretty strong. I'm pretty sure this is at the end of the combat tree. I haven't heard anything about it super good, but I heard it's good. But I never heard people complaining about it as a level of like how good it is. If people aren't complaining, then it's probably not like broken, right? However, Shadow Step, which is at the end of the subtlety tree for rogues, basically you step through the shadows and reappear behind your enemy, and increases movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. The damage of your next ability is increased by 20%, and the threat cause is reduced by 50%, and that lasts 10 seconds. So Shadow Step is like what Charge wants to be, because Shadow Step is crazy good. You like teleport behind your enemy, and it gives you a movement speed boost of 70% for 3 seconds. This is an amazing ability because Shadow Step is like the gap closer. Melee always need gap closers, but this is like, it's going to teleport you there and give you a speed boost, which a speed boost on itself is already a gap closer. So Shadow Step is crazy good, and on top of all that, it's going to give you 20% increased ability damage for your next ability. It's so good. So Shadow Step is just already making a really strong PvP class even better. I can't wait for rogues to have this. I don't really play a rogue, but when I did play a rogue at one point, and that's a crazy good ability. All right, then we have Envenom. Now this I remember people did cry about, and this is kind of an interesting situation here, because Envenom is a finishing move that consumes your deadly poison, doses on the target, and deals instant poison damage. 1 dose is consumed for each combo point. And so the reason Envenom is really good is because it's doing poison damage or nature damage, right? And that basically goes through armor because it's like magic damage. So Envenom is really rogue's answers to the warrior rogue thing, or the rogue versus paladin, anyone that wears plate or even mail. This is going to really do a ton of damage to them. So Envenom is really strong versus plate and mail wearers for that reason. Envenom rogues, not as common, but those that play it right are super strong. All right, Deadly Throw. So this is pretty cool. It does damage and reduces the movement speed of the target by 50% for 6 seconds, and increases thrown weapon damage per combo point. So it's a finishing move, so you're going to lose your combo points. But what Deadly Throw, the ability itself, doesn't say is that once you get your arena piece gloves as a rogue, like gladiators, whatever, it has a bonus on the gloves that also silences the target. So you're given a ranged silence. Crazy, right? So rogues have deadly throw to silence. They have kick. They have gouge to interrupt. I mean, they could sap if they do it right. Just tons of abilities in interrupts, making rogues incredible in PvP. All right, the one that I saved the best for last, Cloak of Shadows. Cloak of Skill, Cloak of freaking brokenness. Like, this is what everyone complains about in the Burning Crusade. Cloak of Shadows. It instantly removes all existing harmful spell effects and increases your chance to resist all spells by 90% for 5 seconds. Does not remove effects that prevent you from using Cloak of Shadows. So you can't like use it to break out of sheep, for example, but basically makes you almost immune to it because you're going to get a 90% chance to resist all spells. When this goes up, most people are going to stop even like casting on you because it's so good. Like, Cloak of Shadows is so freaking good. Cloak of Skill. 5 seconds of basic magic immunity. There's a 10% chance they'll go through, but I mean, most people aren't even going to try to take those odds. So it's only 5 seconds, but it's crazy good, especially if you're getting bursted down. You see people pop their cooldowns. You see a mage use Presence of Mind or any of these scenarios where you're taking a lot of damage. Incredible damage mitigation against spells. What can I say? It's an awesome ability, and I think it's a huge reason to roll Rogue if you're on the fence just to experience it. So those are the new abilities. I'm going to move on to leveling speed. We're going to talk a little bit about rogues and how they do when it comes to leveling. So rogues are not like the fastest class to level because they kind of lack sustain. Hunters can easily level in the Burning Crusade because Mend Pet is not channeled anymore. You just cast it and your pet's like getting healed. It's like kind of boring, to be honest. But rogues, even though they lack sustain, they're a bit faster than warriors and paladins, because those two classes kind of lack utility spells like stealth, vanish, sprint, blind, evasion. Maybe I said sap already. Gouge. Basically, a ton of abilities more than enough abilities to handle sticky situations. Paladin may have bubble, but not only do rogues have vanish to reset, which instantly resets. Bubble is only for a limited amount of time to run away. They also have blind. They can gouge someone to get away. They have evasion, which is a great damage mitigation ability. Basically, it allows them to maneuver tricky quests and sticky situations, which would allow them to avoid otherwise certain death. There's also cheat death, which is a talent. If a hit that would have killed them will not. So rogues definitely have a lot of abilities to prevent them from dying, which is awesome. So when it comes to PvP, moving on to PvP, by the way, rogues do really, really great, especially in open world. Now, I've played a lot of different classes, and honestly, I feel like rogues can pretty much defeat almost any class. I think, besides warrior, I think even if they're good or if they find you at half health, right? Because it's open world. Maybe you pulled too many mobs, or you're at like 50% health. A rogue can just cold blood assassinate, and you're dead, right? Or ambush, cold blood ambush. You can die really fast, even if you're wearing mail or plate. When I'm at full health and I'm a warrior and they're popping evasion, I could just spam overpower or whatever and kill them. I feel like warriors have the best chance to defeat rogues in open world PvP, but rogues would just avoid warriors, right? But rogues can gank really easily, and they're really hard to gank, right? They've got vanish, they've got cheat death, especially now that Cloak of Shadows is in the game. They've got even more abilities to make them slippery. Evasion, sprint, they can get away easily. Blind, gouge, I mean, you name it. They are super slippery. And on top of all these abilities, they are unique because they have the ability to stun lock, right? You can open up with a cheap shot, go into a kidney, into a gouge, reset the fight, sap you. It's unbelievable. They've got incredible damage. Their white hits actually can do quite a bit. Slice and dice, get that auto attack going faster. I mean, quite frankly, in PvP, rogues are the perfect teammate for arenas and battlegrounds. Rogues are so good in Arena, in fact, that they're actually part of some of the top teams across the board for 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5. You look at, Roguelock Shaman is a really popular composition. You've got the Rogue in there, and the Warlock and the Shaman. You've got RMP, Rogue Mage Priest. Mage and Rogue are both incredible in terms of crowd control, and then Priest, really strong damage mitigation, kind of hybrid ability to keep people alive and do a little bit of damage and mana burn, whatever your strategy is, and some crowd control as well. Overall, I can't speak highly enough of how strong the Rogue is in PvP. I feel like, it may be up for debate how good they are in PvE, which we'll talk about next, but there is really no debate whatsoever in terms of power in PvP. And at this point, I want to just let you all know that I have been talking to SB Kazor, and he reached out to me and wanted to talk about his new website for rogues and PvP. So I recommend you all check out his YouTube channel. I recommend you check out his new website for rogue PvP content. He's a super cool guy, and I think he is super pro. I'm going to show some clips here of some of the videos he does, which are awesome, by the way. And I've probably watched a ton of it just to see high level rogue play. It is super entertaining to watch. So I just recommend you check out his website, his YouTube, and if you're a rogue, especially so, because he's trying to build a TBC rogue community. Okay, so moving on to PvE. So for PvE, I actually polled you guys to see, what, are rogues terrible in PvE? And what you basically came back with is no. But it was a pretty close race. I saw about 55-45 split between no and yes, respectively. So most people think, no, rogues are not terrible in PvE, but it's pretty controversial because there's a good amount of people who also think they are terrible. So I want to talk a little bit about today, how do you succeed in PvE as a rogue? Because the odds are against you. Almost half the population think that your class sucks in PvE. So we're going to talk about some of the things you can do to make sure that you can succeed in PvE if given the chance, right? So obviously you're going to want an ideal raid composition. You're going to want buffs from an enhanced shaman like Wind Fury and Unleashed Rage for the 10% increased attack power. You'll also want an Arms Warrior for the 4% physical damage buff, Blood Frenzy. Make sure not to have a poison on the main hand weapon, since you're going to want that to have Wind Fury, and then on your offhand, you're going to want Deadly Poison. It's also going to be useful to have a Feral Druid for Leader of the Pack, and of course, Mangle will also help. Now, when it comes to trinkets for rogues, you really can't go wrong with Dragonspine Trophy and Warp Spring Coil. I would definitely recommend seeking those out. Although, when you get to Sunwell, the Blackened Naru Sliver is the best trinket in the entire game for all specs. So definitely try your best to get that. Two-piece tier 4 will lower the need from a 3-point slice and dice down to 2, which will give you more uptime on a 5-point rupture. Haste is very important for rogues endgame, so berserking will actually help tremendously. In this case, you'd want to be a troll rogue for horde. Speaking of which, if you haven't seen my race picking guides, I talk about which race is the best for all classes for both factions. I'm going to link that in the description below and above for both horde and alliance. When it comes to stat priority, you're going to want to go for expertise, agility and hit, haste, crit, and then armor penetration. With 5 out of 5 precision, that's the talent, you'll need an additional 4% of hit rating, which is 64 hit, to reach soft cap, where special attacks will always hit, special attacks like abilities. With 2 out of 2 weapon expertise, you'll need an additional 64 expertise rating to reach soft cap, or 44 expertise rating if you're playing a human who is using a sword or a mace. So I kind of already hinted at this, but the term cap is referring to a point at which the value of a particular stat changes greatly. There are 2 kinds of caps. A soft cap means that beyond a certain point, the stat will have diminishing damage per second value, whereas a hard cap means that the stat has 0 DPS value beyond a certain point. For rogues, the two stats with caps are hit rating and expertise rating. The hit cap refers to the point at which you have enough hit rating not to miss an attack, and the expertise cap refers to the point at which you have enough expertise rating not to be dodged. So for those reasons, hit or expertise rating beyond its respective cap is actually worth 0 DPS value, right? Because you can no longer be dodged and you can no longer miss an attack. So getting any more extra hit or expertise will offer no additional value. And that's kind of complicated. So, but I wanted to get it out there for you guys. So the issue is that, DPS among the classes is much more balanced than in Classic or Vanilla WoW than in TBC, and mechanics in TBC are much more punishing for melee. So basically, melee dominated Vanilla, but now in TBC, all classes are pretty damn strong, right? However, in TBC, the mechanics are much more punishing for melee. So therefore, you can't just, warrior stack like what's happening right now in Vanilla, right? Because melee isn't that great because of the mechanics, right? In addition to that, I think people's argument for why rogues are terrible in PvE is that rogues also don't provide a ton of utility beyond Black Temple, right? So raids aren't going to want to bring a bunch of rogues. Other classes like warlocks and shaman, even a boomkin are really more optimal to have. You build a melee group with 2 to 3 rogues, and that would probably be it, right? It's just not optimal to bring any more rogues because you have to make room, to build a healer group. You're going to want your 2 ranged groups and then a tanking group. And a rogue outside the melee group is just not going to be competitive. So, I think the general consensus about PvE is that, they have pretty terrible DPS until you've got, your tier 4 geared. And mainly that is because of hit rating. I would say a lot of the rogues in TBC don't know that some of the best DPS you can do is in tier 4 with the Blade Fist Latro and Fist/Sword hybrid spec. This is going to give you 5% higher crit chance on main hand and the extra haste proc and additional main hand swings off Latro's sword spec proc. So definitely a lot of different ideas there for how to do PvE, but I think it's not easy. It's definitely a lot of things to take into consideration. I know a lot of rogues go for the Aldur sword for main hand. However, I think that's a point of controversy in terms of maybe that's not the best in slot. But at the end of the day, when it comes to PvE, it's probably going to be an uphill battle, but there is a correct way to do it. So I definitely do your research, take what I've said into consideration. And at the end of the day, why roll rogue for PvE? Well, Twin Blades of Azzinoth, enough said. So hopefully this gives you a great idea on, what it's like to play a rogue in the Burning Crusade in terms of PvE, PvP, leveling. I feel like that last video on rogue sucking in PvE did not paint the full picture. So hopefully this does. And it gives you a lot of good tips on how to roll rogue and some good resources to continue learning more about rogue. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. More videos are coming, so don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Like it if you liked it, if you learned anything. Comment below your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.